So far, we've seen examples of how to use data providers where there is always an access to the database in order to retrieve information. However, it's also possible to define a data provider to load a data structure with fixed values. As an applicable example, we will use the slide menu control to offer a menu always visible in the pages of the application. As we all know, when we apply a user control, we often create an SDT automatically in the knowledge base. And so, we need to load that SDT using a data provider, which in this case will load fixed values. The slide menu user control is not initially included in the GeneXus toolbar, so we have to install it. To do so, we press Ctrl F in the user controls catalog available on the start page and look for slide menu. Once we find this, by simply selecting details, we can easily install it. So once the installation of the user control is complete, we create a web panel called WP Menu, and from the toolbox, we drag the slide menu user control over the form. In this case, the SDT slide menu data is created in the KB. If we note that we have here a collection of elements that comprise a menu, we will see that each element has an identifier, a name, or a title in the menu, and an object to be invoked. However, some variables have been defined in this web panel as well. Let's see them. This variable is of the slide menu data type, that is, of the collection type that defines the menu. The other two variables are of the slide menu data.slide menu data item type, meaning that they are elements from the collection of the menu. In order to load the collection variable that contains the menu information in the web panel, we will use a data provider. So we create an object of the data provider type called dpMenu. And we drag the SDT slide menu data. What data will we be loading in the collection? Do we need to access the database? No, we don't, because the options that the menu will show are not stored in the database, so we will have to load the structure with fixed values. And how do we do this? We copy and paste this group n times, as many times as the number of options we have in this menu. This allows for each group to represent an instance of the collection to which we will be loading the fixed values. We will define our menu with only two options, so we can work with countries and attractions. To the first group, we will assign the identifier 1, the description of work with countries, and the invocation of the corresponding object using the link method. To define the second option in the menu, we will assign identifier 2, the description work with attractions, and the invocation of the corresponding object. We could go on like this, defining all the options we want to show on the menu. Now let's go back to the web panel to invoke this data provider. At the start event, we do the invocation of the data provider so that it returns its output in the slide menu data variable. Let's try what we've implemented by pressing F5. We execute the web panel and see the menu with the options defined. Let's now select one of the options, like Work with Country for example, and we will see that the corresponding object is invoked, but the menu vanished. But what if we want the menu to always remain visible on all pages in the application? In that case, the menu should be part of the master page that is created automatically within the KB. Let's then make our menu be part of the app master page object. To do this, we have two options. Let's see the first one. We will declare the WP menu web panel as component. If we look at the type property of the web panel, we will see that it may have the master page, web page, or the component value. All web panels are a web page by default, and we already know that a master page is a template for the whole application to have the same design. But what is defining a web panel as a component? When we declare that a web panel is a component, we are indicating that the web panel may be included within another object. If we continue with our example, we can see that in the master page created by GeneXus, there is a control called Content Placeholder. This is the control where the transactions and other objects and pages will be presented. This means that we always view the master page design in runtime, and in the sector where the Content Placeholder control is located, we will see our interactive objects. Now we want the menu to be always available to the left of the Content Placeholder control. So from the toolbox, we drag a control of the web component type that will contain and show an object of the knowledge base we indicate. In our case, the web panel that contains the menu. To align the controls, we use a table. We define a table with one row and two columns. And we locate the content placeholder on the right, and then drag from the toolbox the control of the web component type to the left. Let's look at the properties of this web component control. In the object property, we must indicate the object of the component type that will be loaded within this control. So we complete the property with the name of our WP menu web panel. We then press F5 to see the results in runtime. Let's select, for example, the Work with Country option, and we will see the menu contained inside the master page. What happens if we now select Work with Attraction? The menu also appears visible. The other option would be to delete the WP menu web panel from our knowledge base and drag the slide menu user control directly over the master page to locate it always in a cell to the left of the content placeholder control. This would include the menu directly in the app master page and not in an object declared as component. All that remains is to invoke the data provider from the start event of this master page in order to load the menu. Both of these proposals allow for the menu to be part of the master page design, so it appears visible in all objects.